All right, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Ben Fama Jr. Show. I am your host, Ben Fama Jr. Thank you for joining us live here on YouTube today. If you guys got any comments, any questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. Put a Q in front of it, not for QAnon, because I can't stand that bullshit, but Q if you got any questions and stuff. But today, I'm super excited for my next guest. Obviously, you guys, if you guys are like real fans of mine, you guys know I've talked to my good friend here who is a prolific filmmaker. She's a prolific author. And even though we come from different sides, I call her my spiritual nemesis. I think we're really good friends. And I love talking to her. It's always a great conversation. And if you haven't checked out our prior conversations, but today I'm bringing on author Betsy Chasse. She has got a brand new book called Killing Buddha. The truth shall set you free, but first it will make you miserable. And trust me, people, we are all fucking miserable today. So anyways, welcome to the show, Miss Betsy Chasse. How you doing today, Betsy?
I'm good. I was grooving out to the music. I was having a whole experience, and I'm not miserable.
Well, that's good, because I know a lot of us are, especially after the pandemic and everything. So maybe misery likes company.
Yes,
I don't know.
It's been fucking rough. We're getting better, so I feel good.
Right on. And there may be some technical issues, people. I don't know what's going on. I'm not really sure. Sometimes the thing is skipping out. I'm not really sure. So if it is, maybe just deal with it. We're going to have a great conversation anyway. Yeah, exactly.
It's my energy. I'm so big. And I'm vaccinated, so I might be getting a transmission from Bill. So that is what could be happening.
Oh, the 5G is fucking with our shit now, isn't it?
The
vaccination's fucking with our shit.
Bill.
So
Bill might not want me to say anything.
So let's talk about your book, Killing Buddha. I remember for a while back, you had a trailer for this, and I think originally this was going to be a film. So first off, for the audience who may have not even like heard of Killing Buddha or whatever, tell me a little bit about it, and then your backstory and how you got it to be a book.
Okay, so the book is called Killing Buddha. It's based on a very famous Zen koan. If you meet the Buddha along the road, kill him or you'll follow him the rest of your life. That's the sort. I don't have it in front of me. It's the paraphrased version of it. And it's written by, or spoken by, the teaching was by a Chinese Buddhist named Linji, who is quite a rebel and got in a lot of trouble. So I clearly can't relate with him at all. And so that's what the book is about. It's about killing your Buddhas. And a Buddha can be anything. Like, it's not like literally, there's no, it's about killing your beliefs about, yourself and sacred cows. I had another book called Two Pigs. It's kind of a theme with mine. But Killing Buddha is really, and if people don't know that I made a film called What the Bleep Do We Know a very long time ago, it's still pretty popular. And as that movie came out, I like kind of shockingly, was invited on to stay in the world to talk about how to be enlightened, which is really ironic because I'm the far that. And so it was interesting because I went through this thing. I am all that in a bag of chips and the rock star of enlightenment. Here I come. And then my whole life fell apart. And then I was like, whoops, I made a whole movie about how you create your reality. And I fucked up my reality. So oops. And I started on this journey of like really getting clear for me about what it means to be spiritual and what it means to have a spiritual experience and live a spiritual life. And that's kind of what about. And we have a lot of fun though.
It's a narrative in a sense to where it's a narrative, but it's actually based partly on you in some ways.
It is a fictional novel because I didn't want to get sued and piss people off. I mean, I like pissing people off, but I didn't want to get sued. So it's a novel, but it's based loosely on my life. Mm-hmm. And it's what happens when the least spiritual on the planet gets hired to make a movie about spirituality. Wait, what did your wife just say? She just gave her. Did you just look at her?
No, no, she didn't say. Are you talking about in the comments?
Is there something in the comments? I don't know.
No, it was KT. I don't see it was KT. She's saying hi. She's watching us. So, but anyway, say.
Oh, hi, KT.
So you're talking a little bit how it's about your life, and obviously it's a little bit of a dramatization. But the one thing I'm interested in is you've been in this industry and business for a really long time. Even as a kid, you were a child actor, and then you transformed into doing films. I know you did porno for a little bit and stuff, and then got into spiritualism.
I wasn't in porno, just to be clear.
Well, okay, yeah. Let me be clear. You were producing and making stuff. Yeah, right. I mean, but I mean, you were producing it. You were able to make films. I mean, like I don't downplay that at all. I mean, it's like you're producing. You're a woman in the industry, and I think that evolution from going from child acting to producing, directing, and even doing the stuff you're doing. Talk to me about that evolution, because in a way, sometimes we can look at it like Killing Buddha as a spiritual thing, but even in just the growth of where you came from to where you're at now, how does that relate to it?
Well, part of the book is coming to terms with my own failure as a human. And that I've been doing for like 10 years, because, it's interesting. I'm raising kids right now, and there's a lot of pressure to be something, to go to college, to be some big thing. And I didn't get to go to college, and I failed at acting. And then I wanted to be a film producer, and I realized I was producing shitty movies and porn and left that. And then The Bleep came along, and it was huge, and I thought I was going to be really famous and successful. And then that fell apart. And so it was really about finding my own self again. And it's interesting because for a long time as a producer, before I made What the Bleep and how I got hired originally on The Bleep, I was a very technical producer. I was a line producer because I never thought I was creative. I was funny, and I never thought I was a writer. And I was always very good at, I'm the queen of multitasking, and I'm really good at organizing things. And I became a very successful line producer at the time when there were very few female line producers. A line producer, like the person that organizes all the crew and technically a super high-end project manager, for lack of a better term. And it was on The Bleep when I got hired to make this other movie. It wasn't even called The Bleep, called Sacred Science, and it was a really bad script, and it made absolutely no sense. But people always say, like, when did you get on your spiritual journey? And I always know when I popped out of the vagina, but really that was like the step into it, because I was hired to make this movie, and I didn't even know what's quantum physics and that shit was, like I was a producer, and I got hired because they had the script and they needed someone to produce it. And I always ask these questions. As a line producer and a producer, you touch all the money. Yeah. And I've always been very careful with other people's money. I asked Will, who was financing it, expectations with this money that you're putting into this project? And he had all these big expectations. And I'm a really honest person. And I just said, well, no one's going to watch this movie. It's terrible. And he said, well, what would you do? And all of a sudden, like for the first time in my life, somebody was like, what would you do to make it better? And then all of a sudden somebody wanted to hear my ideas. And I became a creative part. So not only was the Bleep sort of, a opportunity for me, but it was really wow, I really am creative. I'm a good writer. I really do understand this stuff. And so that took me all the way to when I got divorced. I still was writing. I just started writing because I needed to journal, because I was going through a really rough time in my life. And I started journaling. And the funny thing is I was helping somebody else make a little mini docuseries, and they wanted to publish an ebook, and it was like new, because this is how old I am. Ebooks were new. We'd never done one before. So a woman who was working with me said, well, we got to try to run something through the process to see how it works. And so I said, here's like 20 of my essays that I wrote. Just pretend they're a book, and it's a book, and put it in there. Put it through, and she called me up and she said, you should publish this. This is really good. I published my very first book. It was called Metanoia. And there I am. Now I'm a writer, and I love it. I think it took me till like my 40s to find my like favorite thing to do.
Did that evolution come from your, like, did you think it was more of a natural evolution to move into writing, or was it more of like, this business is getting fucking stupid and I just don't like, the reason why I'm asking this, even as a filmmaker myself, I've never had a big blockbuster hit or anything. And, most filmmakers are always trying to achieve that kind of illusion of some status that they think is going to bring whatever the fuck it is. What do you think changed when that happened for you? When all of a sudden it was like, this is how I perceived it to be. And then when that moment happened, did it change your perception of anything? And did that influence you to decide how you actually look at this business and how it influenced you to becoming a writer?
No, because I've never had any illusion. I was basically raised in the entertainment business, and I've known all about it from the time I was 8 and 9 years old. And, working in the porn, people always are like, oh, you worked in porn. And I loved it. Quite frankly, for the most part, most of the places and the women and the men I worked with in that industry were probably more than most, they're probably more ethical than most of the spiritual people I've ever met in my life. But with that being said, I actually quit making movies before I made The Bleep. I got super disillusioned. I was working as senior VP of production. I was managing $30 million. I got headhunted for a major studio to be a director of production, which is 3 steps away from my dream, which was to be, an executive at a studio. Mm-hmm. And realized that, I'm so grateful, Ben, that I've had and that I got to experience this industry as fucked up as it is, because I've been in a lot of other industries, and I'm, 51, and it's all fucked up. Yeah. Like, the whole world is fucked up.
It fucking is.
So it's not
people
just the
admit
movie
that,
business.
But yeah, it is.
And I'll tell you what I'm grateful that I learned while making The Bleep. And I'm grateful that for some reason, and I think I told the story in Killing Buddha. I told it before, where I was riding up in the elevator to get this like my big studio moment, like headhunted. And it was for me because I didn't go to college. And normally to get those jobs, you had to have a bachelor's in film. And I didn't, but I had enough experience. And I rode up the elevator, and I'm afraid of heights, right? And so I go in the elevator, I get out, I'm on the 27th floor, and they show me this place where my office is going to be, and the office is floor to ceiling windows. I'm about to have a panic attack because I'm like literally like, oh my God, I'm in California. The whole thing is going to fall to the ground, and I'm going to die in this building. And like, as I was riding down the elevator, what I realized was, wait a minute, I'm 27 floors up, and I'm an executive, or I'm a junior executive at a studio, but I'm like miles away from filmmaking now.
Yeah.
I'm away from what I love, which is the down and dirty and the flying on the planes. And, I had such a great adventurous 20s and 30s, 20s where I was just flying all over the world and being paid to go to Jamaica and France. And that was the moment when I said to myself, if I take that job, I'm never in filmmaking, I'm in the business of film.
Yeah.
And those are two different things. I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that everything is a business at the end of the day. And because everything is because of capitalism, and I'm not against capitalism, but everything is about the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit making movies. I actually turned that job down. All of my friends lost my mind and gone nuts. Because it was like, how could you turn down a $200,000 a year deal? Like, it was crazy. But I realized that wasn't what I loved. Then I took a few years off, made gourmet dog treats in my kitchen. So if you read the book, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And look, the pet food industry is just as fucked up as the movie business. So I don't look at it that way. Like, I look at writing was just the piece of me that I found later in life, but I do believe it was always in me.
Yeah.
And yes, writing books and writing blogs is easier than making, that you need hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can write by myself, but I don't get anything that I do as some sort of that's filmmaking. Because at the end of the day, we're storytellers.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Exactly.
What medium we do it in is and Killing Buddha originally was a movie that I had set up, and then the main actress ended up needing to go to, and the whole thing fell apart. And I just went, well, okay, I'm waiting on this. And then the novel was because I put it away for 10 years almost, and I was having a moment in my life a couple of years ago where I'm questioning, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And I took my kids out of school. We went to South America for a few months. And my friend, as I was leaving, said, you ought to write Killing Buddha as a novel because that's your story and it needs to be written.
Right.
And I just went, and while I was in South America, I just wrote it. It just came flowing out of me. And I tell I don't care if you're ever going to plan to publish it, but the most cathartic, deeply spiritual work you could do is write your memoir. That mind. And it certainly blew mine.
Well, then what did you learn from that experience in writing it that maybe you had insight than even before taking your trip? And the reason why I'm asking this is because we're literally living in times where expectations of reality are being completely just bullshitted into non-existence. And what I mean by that is I've started rethinking almost everything that I think about some things. Again, going back to even just the Hollywood industry, obviously I have friends that are filmmakers that went to Hollywood and Austin and stuff, and that's great. Maybe that's their life path. But to me, I just don't feel like I fit into a system like that. And I wonder when it comes to you, is the evolution from when you made What the Bleep to where you are now with Killing Buddha, what was that kind of separation and reflection looking back, writing the book, and what did you learn from that disconnect and being where am I at? Who the fuck am I now? You know what I mean?
Right. So when the Bleep came out, I'll tell you, when we finished the Bleep, we took it around to all the studios. And everybody said, this is an amazing movie. You're going to see this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think in order to exist in gratitude and be happy in this sort of space of a creator or a creative or a storyteller, you have to have a certain, first of all, you have to have, I hate to say really big balls because balls are weak, but you have one thing, and you have to have a willingness that you're never going to fit in. And so when the studios, part of my job besides helping write, direct, because I took on the idea of I'm going to get this into the theaters. When they all told me, Paramount and Sony and everybody said, no, we're not distributing this movie, I just said, fuck you. I'm going to do it myself. And that's the kind of person I'm. And I think that really in order to succeed in some of these businesses, you kind of have to be able to say, fuck you, I'm going to do it myself. Exactly. And that's kind of what I've always done. And that, and does that mean I always win and get it right and, live in a fancy house and a successful, rich and all that? No, but it does mean that I can look back at my life, even as I sit here today, and say, you know what? For the most part, I did this my way, and I'm happy with it. And that's, so to me, you're looking for an answer on what was the evolution. My whole life journey, a constant evolution of learning more about who I am and then taking that wisdom and applying it in my life, learning more about, but the core sense of who I am, my mouthy, ballsy, not take no for an answer, aggressive, I don't think that's a bad word, get things done, make things happen. I think it's been a part of my core who I am since I was born.
Right. It's funny because you always say that, you're the least spiritual person before you made the film. And it's funny when I hear it because I feel like we were almost opposites at that time, where I was an extremely spiritual person. And I was a huge fan of your film. I mean, I still am a huge fan of film. I disagree with a lot of it, but it's still a sentimental part of my life and probably always will be, because how much I love that film and how much I used to tell people about it and stuff. It's even funny. I'm even talking to you. It's like, damn, dog, this film I fucking totally I wanted to get into filmmaking because of Michael Moore and politics, whatever, but it was really films like What the Bleep that I was when I was a very spiritual person, I was like, I want to do this. I want to ask these questions and think about the bigger philosophies in life. So I can never discount it, even though I'm on a different side. So I guess in a weird way, my Killing Buddha is walking away from that myself. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the evolution from
you gotta do you.
Where I was to where I am now. And it's kind of funny because not a lot of people knew me from back then. You know what I mean? But if they did, and the ones that did, they know how super spiritual I was and how much I really, even going to Sedona, obviously I don't live in Sedona now, but I wanted to be like that. Like you were as a filmmaker. I was like, I'm going to make the next Secret. I'm going to make the next, I was going to be the next big spiritual
first of all, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to blow your mind right now. Your mind. I don't know about anybody else's, but I'm definitely blowing yours. If you go back and you look at What the Bleep today, What the Bleep Do We Know holds true to most of what it said more than The Secret. So you don't get to use The Secret in any interview, because in my mind, The Secret is the beginning of the downfall of the Western spiritual movement. I'm going to smoke thing. Yeah. If you really go back and watch What the Bleep Do We Know, here's what the movie said. Your thoughts affect your reality. Your thoughts affect your reality. That nobody can argue with. Right. Because it's interesting, because your perspective paints your experience. You think about how something is, paints your experience. I don't care whatever. You want to pull up this little moment or that little moment, you can blow all that shit up. At the end of the day, and this is funny, because this is what I say to all these QAnon people and people freaking out about all the conspiracy stuff. Those people are not spiritual, because they want to have it all the ways. They want to have it all the ways. They want to say, I create my reality and my thoughts, and I'm a master and I'm a starseed, but I can only eat vegan on Tuesdays with this kind of and it has to be served to me in a bamboo container. If they really created their reality, then none of that, right? Yeah. So it's interesting to me, because if you think about what people want to call spiritual, what is spiritual? Even the bleep isn't that spiritual, because most of what we talked about in the bleep has now been proven as behavioral science and neuroscience. Most of what was in the bleep is now people are like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Disney stole, remember our little cells in the bleep? The little characters? Yeah. Disney stole that whole character and made a cartoon about it, how your brain works, basically using everything that was in the bleep. Right. So, if you want to talk about The Secret and that stuff, that's different.
What things, and again, I know we've had this conversation many times, so it's not people can watch a lot of the debates we've had about whether or not these are true or not or whatever. So I think that's kind of why it's not I'm more fascinated in the conversation of where are we at now, and even in that, because I guess for me, so from my perspective, this is how I look at it. from my evolution, from understanding from where I was as a spiritual person to where I am now, is that I feel like that life is very complicating and it has a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainties. And I find that often, like most people, I'm searching for answers to help resolve a lot of those anxieties, those fears, those detrimental, deeper meanings. And I think we're all looking for this way of trying to deal with these fucking demons and this anxiety that just rips us apart. You know, I mean, I know we don't all talk about this shit, but you know, I know that spiritualism or religion, a lot of this is that for people. And sometimes I know this is going to sound weird, even though I know I fucking criticize and fucking shit on all these belief systems now. It's probably just because I feel like I've been lied to. But the reality is I almost feel bad that I do it sometimes, because I'm like, I feel like, what if this is the only thing that people think that they have in life for them to understand these anxieties? And I want to just show people that questioning the truth is which I believe most spirituality and religions were trying to get to, is the core tenets of like who we are, why are we here, what is this universe and what we're doing. I think people are so afraid that the answer may not actually be that they're afraid that somehow on the opposite side of that there's this empty pit of nothingness. And what's weird to me is I know this is gonna sound weird, I feel far more enlightened than I ever have my entire life now, than I ever did being religious or spiritual. And it's so weird because it's almost like the universe makes far more sense when I stopped, when I questioned it beyond what I thought I believed about it. And the chaos and the madness and everything makes sense when I realize it's not a system meant for me or for anyone else. And that's the beauty. It's almost like that's what Buddhism is saying in itself, like that suffering and us acknowledging the world as it is, and it's not trying to control what it is and saying, I accept it as it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever the fuck, the dumbness. I mean, look, there's a lot of dumb shit out there, and I fucking hate a lot of it. But I think people mistaken that from the value that I have towards knowledge and life and what I admire and what I love, like, you know, my wife and people I care about. And I know it sounds weird, but I feel so far more enlightened, and I just want people to at least see it for maybe a moment, because I understand everyone else's point of view.
Well, let me say this. I felt a lot better in life when I stopped worrying about what was going to happen when I died. I live very, because you know what? Shit is hard. You know, a big myth that is perpetuated in the spiritual movement is that if you're doing it right, it's easy. If you're doing, something must be wrong with you, or you did this bad reality, or you ate meat, or whatever you did to, like, because it's all supposed to be in flow, and magic is supposed to just flow to me all of the time. The way I look at this is that this is the plane of experience. You know, I read something today on my friend's page, talking specifically about reincarnation, and it was very interesting. When people talk about reincarnation, they always talk about a past life. Yeah. And it's funny because in science, there's no past, there's no future, and there's no present. The only reason we talk that way is because in this body, in this frequency, in this plane of experience, our brains need time in order to ground and move. But time doesn't exist anywhere else. Yeah. So there is no past life and there is no future life. There is now. So I just try to be really present in the now. Does that mean I don't go and have a panic attack because I got a bunch of bills I have to pay and go, shit, how am I going to pay those fucking bills? Mm-hmm. Do that. But I also know that me sitting around having a panic attack about that isn't going to solve it. I also have gotten into a place in this, like, with age and time, is that I know that everything is going to be okay. It will work itself out. Will it be hard? Will it be messy? Will there be struggle? Yes, because that's what we're here to experience. This is what we're here to do. Mm. You know, no, I have never met one person who doesn't have a trauma or story or some horrible thing that happened to them or something. I've never met one person, because it's not a reality that exists. So right. For me, when I just got really grounded in, like, oh, sometimes life is going to, and sometimes it's going to be fucking awesome. It's going to be in between. I just got to ride it and be present into it. Like, all of that stress really went away. There's a great quote by one of my favorite writers. His name is Jack Kerouac, and he says, "Be in love with your life, every detail of it." And that is such an amazing practice. If you can really think about that, be in love with your life, every detail of it. That means you got to love it when it sucks. You got to love it when it's boring, when it's adventurous, and everything in between. That's what brings me peace. This point. And that's what I found when I found, that is what I found when I wrote Killing.
Let me challenge you on that too, because I think that's an interesting quote that Jack Kerouac even said. And I thought about it because I heard you talk about it in interviews. And I thought for a moment, you know, it's also okay to not have to love every detail of your life too. And let me explain why, because sometimes things are bad and we're afraid to, like, no, obviously none of us want to feel like shit. I mean, but the reality is sometimes it does, and it's okay that it does. And I don't, I mean, this is just my personal.
What I mean by that is, yes, be okay with it being bad, and let it be bad.
Sometimes you can't do anything about it anyways. And it's not always the fault of the perspective. And I think that's a lot of things I have a problem with, like a lot of people, especially in the guru community. A lot of times there's
a lot of blame and shame in that place. It's always your fault.
It's always like, oh, you're not thinking positive enough. You're not doing this. I'm like, look, fucking sometimes shit happens to people, man. Sometimes it's a lot of our lives are not in our control. Like it's just that's the reality as humans we've faced on this planet for a long time. And it can seem scary. And sometimes it actually is. I don't think there's any answer out there that's going to get people to wake up one day and be like, our fears will no longer be there, or our fears will be controlled. And I think wise people long before us and humans have had these conversations, and they've asked those really deep questions about fear, anxiety, you know, fear of death, fear of the unknown. And we still are asking it. I don't think, I mean, it's just my perspective because, like I said, I'm only one human being. But I haven't, in all these years studying all these religions, all these philosophies, have found anyone that came to the answer that could truly relieve us in a realistic way. And yet, I do see philosophies like Buddhism. You know, I'm not a Buddhist, but I would consider myself probably closer to Buddhism than anything else. That it is what it is, and the ability to still find that meaning in that little tiny things in your life that are important. I heard you talk about this on another show too, where something as simple as, like, you know, a glass of lemonade or having a conversation, like knowing that the world, yes, has genocide, it has anxiety, it has murder, it has horrible fucking people. It always has. It always has. And what's great about Buddhism is that it's always recognized the suffering, but it's not that people have to be okay with it and be like, I accept it, but it's almost as if it's like, okay, I understand this is part of the process, but it shouldn't deflect from the small, tiny things of yourself and your mind and the little tiny, and that for me is what keeps me going, knowing, at least in my perspective, that I don't believe in a God. I don't believe there's any other system out there. And people are like, well, that's a scary life. I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being.
But that's because you get to be okay with yourself. We have to get to this notion where, you know, it's interesting because everyone wants to talk about freedom and everyone's are being taken away. And my freedom is being taken away, and my freedom has never been taken away. I don't care if I get blocked on Facebook. Facebook is a privately owned entity I'm part of their profit margin. So if they want to block me, whatever, I don't care. They'll never take away my voice. And it's interesting because a lot of us are very concerned about what other people think and what other people are doing, and how, you know, and 95% of the time, it doesn't matter. Like, the only time it matters what other people are doing is when I'm driving in a car and we're trying to all drive in the cars. Like, we all should care about what other people are doing, right? Yeah. That's it. You know, we should probably care, like, my neighbor is not going to, like, set my house on fire. You know what I mean? I would prefer that I would like it that my neighbor is not slaughtering children. But, like, like, life is super simple if we get out of each other's shit and just keep it basic with, like, hey, let's not be dicks to each other. Let's not kill each other. It's funny. One of the things we did talk about in the belief is the 10 commandments, believe it or not, are pretty rational. They're pretty straightforward, easy rules for coexisting, right? But the reason trauma and stress in the world is because everybody's very busy trying to tell somebody else that they should live their way. As soon as we let go of that, and as soon as we go back to compassionate existence, where we go, oh, we can all actually we all have enough money, we all have enough food, we all have enough shelter, that once we get to those two places, we'll be fine. There'll be less murders. There will be less suffering, because suffering on the level that we have it is caused by fear of not having enough, and the fear that people are not going to do it my way.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part on that, because the way I look at it is I don't think you'll ever get rid of all suffering. I mean, an asteroid could come here and kill us.
No,
all,
no,
and
no,
there's
no.
nothing. But I agree
No,
with
I
you
never.
on the premise of like looking at it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like
Yeah.
when I look at it as we are creatures, we are animals, but people looked at it as that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm saying, look, we have needs and wants, and survivalism is an important thing for us. And I think that we act the most vicious and the most angry and the most whatever when we're stuck in a competitive survival mode. Now, that may have worked for millions of years when we had limited resources and whatever, but motherfuckers, we're building entire fucking goddamn cities, and we got billionaires who don't need half of this fucking, like the fucking shit we make up for survivalism. And then the rest of us go to bed at night wondering, how the fuck am I going to keep up with this fucking world? How the fuck? And
that's because
we can't even talk about it.
That's because we've been conditioned to believe that my neighbor is the billionaire who's starving me, and my neighbor is my savior.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw monkeys doing that
taught,
shit in the jungle, if you saw a monkey taking all the fucking wood and all the goddamn resources and building these large ass fucking, tree fucking houses, whatever, and you see all these other starving monkeys, you bet there's something wrong with that fucking monkey. Here we are in 2021 with the ability to even have this communication, to talk and do this, and we're still acting like primitive fucking animals. Even though, I get it, we have a reptilian brain, but the advantage we had as human beings was we were able to think beyond our environments, think beyond our primitive minds. And we have the technology and the ability to create societies that don't cause people to act ape shit unnecessarily.
But we have greed, and greed comes from fear. And if you look at the art of war, the whole idea is divide and conquer, create enough. That's why Christians want to be pro-choice, because they think if they're not pro-choice, they're going to lose their religion. So they force this notion women should just all be mothers and make babies, and if they don't, they're evil and they should go to jail. But then they don't deal with the babies once they're born, because it's really not about the abortion. It's really about their fear that if they agree to let other women have their own choice, they won't be able to have theirs, because they've been told if we let women control their own bodies, they're going to attack Christianity.
Right.
So it's just this all fear of survival. It's all fear of don't let anybody be too different than you, because you can't live together. You can't exist. Look what's happening in Israel and Palestine right now. I mean, probably not going to make very many friends, but I think they're both. I think it's ridiculous on both sides. At some point, as humans, we have to sit back and go, wait a minute, we're just slaughtering each other for no reason. And we're being conditioned to slaughter each other by because the Palestinian is a billion-dollar industry, right? Follow the money there. It's a billion-dollar industry. We're funding Hamas. We're funding, and then we're getting stuff from both sides. It's a business. And until we as a society start to say money needs to come out of politics, money needs to come out of medicine, money needs to come out of education, then it's not going to change, which is part of why I don't get so upset about it anymore, because it's well, what can I do? I can speak up and say that as much as possible, but mostly I'll just live my little small existence. As you can see in my back, I have a patio, but I grow my own little vegetables back here. And, I try my very best. I do everything that I can do on the micro level to have a better impact. And I'm conscious about where I spend my money. I'm conscious about what I buy, because I think the more people just start doing that, and I think we're seeing people starting to go, I saw this woman on Facebook the other day. She's a big QE girl. And she said, she was ranting. She actually copied this from another person because it was completely ridiculous. She said, if I go to a restaurant and someone asks me if I've been vaccinated, I'm going to sue them. I'm going to crush them. I'm going to burn them to hell. And I was like, wow, that's not very loving. She's, and they can't, I'm going to sue them because they're breaking HIPAA laws. And it's kind of like, well, not. And then she was like, well, I copied this from somebody else. I said, well, didn't you read it to make sure it was factually correct? I said, but beyond that, think about this. you're not going to sue Walmart. Like, Walmart doesn't give a shit if you sue them because they're a gazillion-dollar company.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you try to go to some mom and pop restaurant and they ask you to be vaccinated before you come into there, you're going to shut them. You're going to do everything in your power to shut them down. That's exactly what they want you to be doing. So, like, you're crushing some small business because if you're thinking that you're special, that's what they've turned us into. And you've been light on your page for years and years and years. That's not love and light.
Yeah.
That's just falling prey into so all these spiritual QEs and all these I'm an enlightened master and I don't need to be master. I'm not worth my freedom. You just fell prey. For as much as you guys want to say all of the people that did wear masks, we were the ones that were the sheeples. They're just the other game. So are you kidding? Applebee's wants you to crush that small, independently owned restaurant. You know?
Yeah.
So instead, go, wait, I'm not in alignment with their values. I won't shop there. I won't eat there. If that's really, but crush some small business, it just, that's because people need to feel it. They need to feel right. They need to feel like they're the ones that know everything, because a big part of survival is knowing the answers. If you just let go of that and just go, wow, I don't like that. Like,
But Betsy,
if
I
there's a
do
bakery
know everything. That's what everybody says. Ben, you know everything. You seem to know everything.
I don't know shit.
I don't know everything, and that's the funny part is when I hate it when people say that. The reason why is because I genuinely don't. I'm always asking fucking questions. I do have an assertion to what I believe, and I will fight for it. But Jesus Christ, people act like I don't have conversations with people like you and other people on opposite sides. Like it's mind-boggling to how much assumptions people make and their ability to want to actually value actually trying to actually learn something. I'm talking about really trying to, because I spend a lot of my time when I have free time, not only like learning my point of view, but learning someone else's. Like I mean, ask Mesa. I watch fucking documentaries about conspiracy theories and New World Order and Bigfoot. Like I watch, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like it almost makes me mad when people assume that I won't listen to. It's just like, but I've heard so many arguments for so long. I'm like, I don't know how else to have a conversation with somebody without people freaking out on me and being pissed. Now, I know I'm a very provocative person. I am. I fucking get angry at shit because that's just who the fuck I am. I mean, I get annoyed when people cut me off. I just yelled at somebody the other day for parking in my parking spot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. I'm an Italian. I'm from fucking Vegas. Like, I was that way before I got into this shit, motherfucker. So, but at the end of the motherfucking day, just like we are having a conversation right now, I've spoken to so many people who think different than me, and I've also been on the opposite side. I've been where people have believed. Trust me, I've believed so many things in my own life, and people are like, "Well, what? Did you get hurt? I'm like, I mean, it's a complicated story, and I'm not going to get into all of it, but a lot of it was just asking questions and just being curious. Like some of it was like, "Well, what is this? How do I understand it?" And I'm just obsessive about asking those questions, and I don't know what scares people from being that way. What are people afraid of? Like, what are they afraid of? That they're wrong? Because I've been wrong. I'm not afraid of being wrong.
People are afraid of being wrong, and they're afraid of their world being blown up. And then what do? Then they know nothing, and then everything. The big existential crisis. If everything that you thought you knew became true, our brains, the way that we humans work, build a reality. And then we go, okay, I'm safe in this reality because I built this reality. That's just how your brain works. That's not spirituality or woo shit. That's just literally how your brain works. I think a lot of people confuse even a lot of the belief with spirituality when it's just neuroscience. This is how your brain works. And it's legit how your brain works. And when you go through enough of those, for me, I've had that happen. I seem to have that happen every 10 years. I'd like to keep not blowing up every decade, but whatever. So I have it happen every year, 10 years. And it's almost funny to me. I'm almost like, that was an interesting incarnation. What's coming next?
Right.
I'm pretty chill about it. People get like uppity with me and they want to be right. And I just kind of go, cool. Okay. Because see, this is where you and I differ. Mm-hmm. You think there's truth. So I differentiate between truth and facts, current facts.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing, I've interviewed some of the greatest scientists in the world, and they will say to you, we can say what we know now, but any good scientist knows that that might change. We operate on what we know now. You know, like these a bunch of fucking boneheads, right? They're just, you know, and mostly the reason the CDC and all those people are so fucked up is because they're all freaked out about how to handle the humanity, right? And it's all this mixed messaging because the truth is no longer like just saying what is no longer. If there's always going to be spin, there's always got to be the right perspective on it. It's all messed up, right? So there's just no like, okay, people, here's the fucking deal. Some random little fucking virus got leaked out of a goddamn lab in China. It's going to cause some serious shit. Everyone just chill out so we can figure it out. If they just said that, like, go home, this is bad, fuck, somebody fucked up. There's a, you know, it would have been fine, but they couldn't, nobody could just, I'm less concerned with truth because truth is subjective, and the truth is, my truth is different than your truth. Now, is it a fact that my car needs gasoline? Currently, yes. So I better operate on that fact. Is it a fact that, you know, my sink, when I turn it on, the water will come out? That is a fact. But now it might also be a fact that if I wave the on, or my car can, so I am less concerned about it. It doesn't, I like information, and I like to be able to know, what's going on? What do we know? So I tend to say, well, what does science know now? Okay, that's what they know now. And it sounds reasonable. And then I look at statistics and facts. Like, people are so freaked out about vaccines. Millions and millions of people get vaccinated all the time. We don't have any problems. Quite frankly, I'm of the mind that if Bill Gates and 5G is going to take over, at this point, I'm like, fuck it, that ought to be interesting. Let's see what happens. You know, like, I don't even care anymore. You know, I live my little existence, hang out with my kids, drink some wine, smoke some cigarette, have a good time. Like, because it gets to the point where that's what makes you so upset. I have so many friends who are vegan, gluten-free. I keep them all out half the time. And I'm just sitting here drinking wine, eating my meat, smoking a cigarette. Because, you know, I'm just like, you know, those people get sick more than I do. Now, does this mean I might die of lung cancer? Maybe. I'm going to die. I don't even know what the fuck I have, but I'm not even going to worry about it. But I'm not going to sit here every time I'm going to go eat a meal and have a goddamn panic attack about what I'm eating. Because that's going to make me sicker, because science will tell you stress and anxiety is the biggest cause of health problems than any of it. But so we live in this world where people just want to be right, and they want to know what they know, and they have the truth. And I'm just kind of like, cool, whatever. Enjoy.
I think the reason,
you know, that's just how I roll.
For me, the reason why truth is so important is not because it's even the truth, because sometimes I don't even like the fucking truth. Like, I find the answer, and I'm like, I fucking hate this answer. But I think for me, oftentimes, it's also a part about problem solving, to where, you know, sometimes I need, like, for example, bringing the car analogy, like, if my car is breaking down, I need to know what I need to do to actually solve the problem. Now, there may be different ways of solving that problem, which is fine. But for me, it's always been about problem solving in any aspect. And a lot of it was forced to where I had to force myself to do problem solving. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I've got a very serious...
Okay. Hang on a second. Like, that's, again, people, like, your car that you have right now is built a certain way.
Yeah.
It's got things. The things do the things. They do the same thing every time. You start the engine. I don't know shit about cars, by the way, but you start the engine, the belts turn, the gas sucks in, whatever it does, right? That's the system that was built. It's not going to, like, suddenly evolve into a new system tomorrow when you wake up in the morning. It's going to stay that. So that's more the facts of how my car runs. I can't, it's not changing unless I buy a new car, because nothing new in it.
But inability
that's different than truth, which is that, is it true that there's, for lack of, I hate to say it this way, because again, I'm not a big fan of how we put this, that there's a God? I don't know. Nobody's proven that there is, and nobody's proven that there isn't, and I don't give a shit. Does that not mean that for me personally, I wake up every morning and I do my ritual and I call God, universe, or Bob, that I don't just say, hey, Bob, how's it going, dude? I want to have like a great day today. That's because you know why? Because it makes me feel good. I'm not trying to start a religion where everybody says they have to follow Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we have to get to. Like, I don't know if it's true that there's life after death, or I don't know if it's true. Do I know that I can have lucid dreams and do things? Yes. Do I need to prove it to the rest of the fucking world? No, I don't give a shit. You know, I wish I was drinking iced tea, but
the problem,
almost gone. But yeah,
the problem that lies for me is that, say, for example, we go back to the car analogy, and this will even relate to even God and the afterlife stuff. If there's a problem with my car and I need to have it fixed, okay, and I go to an auto mechanic who takes advantage of my knowledge or my lack of knowledge, that does affect me in my life. And especially if the car doesn't get fixed. And I feel like we as humans have been deceiving people for a very, very long time. And there's a lot of people out, not just like, for me, it's not just spiritualism or religion. I mean, we see con artists in business. We had a fucking president who was a con artist. And I think that's why it's bothering me, is it's no longer just about, well, is it true? I mean, like, for example, think about recently with this stupid fucking, these idiots who stormed the Capitol. They literally believed something that they were willing to steal our fucking democracy over. That's
right. That's because we don't have discernment anymore. We don't have discernment. We have a bunch of, we are an entitled fucking country.
Yeah,
we have been told that we are special and that we are the great American experiment and the democracy and freest country. We are special. And then we started raising special kids, and everybody gets a participation trophy, and everybody gets, everyone's special, and you're an indigo light worker or a star seed, or you're special. So we're all goddamn special because we're special because we know. Then this comes along, and then if you watch a lot of what happened with the Q and in the spiritual community, there's so many people running around calling themselves a healer that shouldn't be touching anyone. You shouldn't let those people fucking near you.
Exactly.
They are fucking individuals, right? But someone who probably sold them a course told them, wow, you have a gift.
Yeah.
So now everybody's got a fucking gift, and they're all healers. So then the whole anti-vax and the QAnon thing came in, and guess what? And then so it has to be true. You don't know. It's like a funny thing about pandemic. Pandemic keeps saying it was the most censored thing ever, but it had more views than like Taylor Swift videos. It's like, well, how can it be the most censored and get the most views? That was a marketing ploy. If you read, there's an LA Times article with Mick. He literally says that they intentionally marketed it that way. They did it to the people on purpose. It's right there in black and white. He fucking admits exactly what he did. And it's like, of course he knocked him for that. Of course that filmmakers got to market their shit. He knew what he was doing.
What I hate about it is...
But hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at some point we have to grow up, mature up, and start acting like rational humans, like rational people, and use discernment. And people don't want to do that. It goes up against their I'm special, I know everything, and it's better for me to be in the know and know everything and be a special and and be a Reiki master in a weekend, sit down and go, wait a second, actual healing, to be a true healer probably takes 30 to 40 years of learning, and I'm not, so I better not call myself a healer. No, I just took the weekend course, I'm a healer.
Do you think that
that's better, because we're all arrogant and we're all entitled and we all think we should
do you think
special.
People that do that though, like especially this annoys with the fucking filmmakers when they do that, they try to make it like they've been banned or what people don't want you to see. It's like, well, no, maybe you're fucking just wrong. Like that, like I can't imagine me making a fucking film and being like, this is the film nobody wants you to fucking see or whatever. I'm like, trust me, I make films people like are really uncomfortable with. I could even say that. I've had people attack me so much. Like, you should see my emails. People are just like, oh, you're just the propaganda for the government. I'm like, really? Where's my money then, bitches? Like, what the fuck?
Right?
Like, nobody
Where's
funds me.
check?
I'm independent, motherfuckers. Like, like, what are you talking about?
Again, you know But Ben, the thing is that
Like, just be real. If you
people
have a
just
point
want
of
to
view,
know.
if you have a point of view,
People
just
just want to be right. I
that's
don't
what it
know.
is. And it's all this
People want to be
marketing
right.
and all this stuff. And maybe that's another thing I want to talk to you about what you think even with Hollywood. Like, I feel like I've never really like worked in Hollywood. You have way more experience than this, but this delusion, man, maybe this even kind of ties back into your book, is like, how do we let go of this delusion that Hollywood and this illusion they want to create about this fantasy of fame and fortune and what they think is what's best for everybody. Like, everyone gets older, like, I want to make this big Hollywood blockbuster, and yet there's so many great films
Because they want to be rich and they want to be famous. Because when you're rich and famous, life is better because that's what you see in People magazine, and that's what you see.
Exactly.
You've been sold. Because that's
But
what we've
you
been
and
told.
I are people that like can value, like,
because we've never been rich and famous.
exactly.
So we just have to figure it out.
But I guarantee we're probably even in our own fucking misery, Betsy. I guarantee we're happier than a lot of those motherfuckers because, you know, like you said, you got a garden that's behind you. You enjoy having a cigarette. You enjoy talking to your kid. Like, same here. I know people are like, Ben, you're always angry. I'm like, no. I was doing some planting. I mean, I fucking sucked at it, so I stopped it. But I find little things that are important. I don't need a lot in fucking life, motherfuckers. I don't. I got a great fucking wife. Okay, I've got problems like anybody. Trust me. I stay up worrying about how the fuck I'm gonna survive as a fucking broke ass fucking filmmaker, working my ass off trying to run a business like anyone else. But at the end of the day, I do find the small shit. But you know what? I was led, like most people, and you would know probably even more than me, of this Hollywood dream that somehow there's this, I'm gonna be important, everyone's gonna love me, and it's gonna fucking, you spend all your life chasing after this thing, and then when you get there.
Because it started, you know, I mean, we didn't have royalty in this country, right? We had movie stars. And again, it's to sell the American dream. You too can be a movie star. You too can do this. It's okay. It's just that, you know, it's also okay. There's a great comic running around, a meme where this mom and their son and two moms and two boys are standing on the street. And the one mom says to the little boy, you better study hard or you're going to end up like that trash man. The trash guy walks by or is by in a trash truck.
Yeah.
And the next mom says, you better study hard and follow your dreams and do whatever you want so you don't end up like that elitist over there. Because, you know, there's nothing. I was just talking to this other day, you know, they push in schools, like, go to college, be a lawyer, be that. You know what? Sometimes not everybody can do that. And sometimes we've lost, and especially in schools, because the way schools get money is, you know, they get to be a blue ribbon school. And if they're a blue ribbon school and enough kids go to the 4-year colleges, they get some more money from that. And so it's all about the money.
Exactly.
We have these kids and they're all great artists and painters. And you know what? Instead of going to college, you should go travel around Europe for a year and paint and go hang out in painting colonies. That's what you should on. We don't do that to people anymore. We don't cultivate that anymore.
It's because we don't really have a value system. It's not a real value. It's like, it's not that even money is the problem. It's the value we put to what, you know, when I rent a film from somebody that I really enjoy watching, I'm hoping that I'm supporting that. I don't have a lot of fucking money, but I'm hoping that I'm buying something of value, you know, and I hope that when we create stuff, you know, that people know, look, we're not against money. We got to fucking survive. We didn't make the goddamn rules, but that we are trying to create value for our audiences enough to say, hey, look, we know you guys work hard for your fucking money. You know what I mean? And hopefully we're giving you a product that you feel valuable enough to have. But our value systems are to where I need to have a fucking nice car. I need a fucking nice car. Like, I want my car to run. You know what I want the money for? I want to go make films. I want to go fucking drive down to LA with Betsy and be like, what the fuck's up? You know what I mean? Like, this whole fucking, I need my name in Oscars and all this millionaire bullshit. I could care the fuck less.
Good for them. I mean, I think if somebody has a dream and their dream is to win an Oscar, I mean, like, good for them. Like, again, done. Like, I just try not.
As long as your identity and yourself isn't getting caught up in it. So you're right. I'm not saying it's
well, and even if that's what it is for them, they're not causing any harm by it. You know, we gotta, like, I think for me, and I've certainly been a judgmental person in my life, I tend to look at it like this. You do you, boo. Rock on with your bad self. Dream it. Do it. I hope I can in it. As long as, like, you're doing your dream doesn't like cause harm to humanity, go do. Like that's what we have to get with people, you know, and support them.
Yeah.
And be honest with them. You know, I had a client today I was talking to, helping her with the series she's doing, and she says, I think I'll sell it to Netflix. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to sell it because that's not Netflix's model. So you have to, like, again, you have to understand it's not that it's all just art and airy fairy do isn't just all like, woo, magic. Like, I try to understand the business of what I'm doing because it is the way that I earn my living.
Yeah.
I don't have a regular gig.
Yeah.
Right. So this is how I earn my living. So I take time to learn about, well, if I'm going to write a book and publish, I started my own publishing company. I had a publisher, big time publisher. You can go look up who it was. They didn't really support me as an author. I did okay, but they didn't really, you know, they have so many other authors. I said, screw that. I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to learn how to publish. I'm going to publish other people's books. I'm going to learn this myself. You know, I'd learn the business of things,
Yeah.
but I'm not here to like what I said to my client today. I said, look, that's the way that I know the business model to be. But hey, you know what? Who am I to say that you don't sell this to Netflix for millions of dollars? Like,
Yeah.
I can't predict anything. And I've gotten over the need to be right and predict everything. As a consultant and as an advisor, I'll give you my best input and information around it. And I will also, if you say, no, my dream is to do this, then I'll go, okay, then let me try to support you. That might happen. But I'm not here to be anybody's dream killer or judge them about it, you know, because it's not my place to do.
But you're smart enough to see through.
That also brings me a lot of
You're smart
peace.
enough to see though through the bullshit artists that and the sharks in this industry too. And that's the thing that like. I'm not here to just shit on people, but at the same time, we also know there's a lot of fucking sharks and a lot of bullshitters that will just
in every industry
just suck it the life out of you. You know what I mean? And that's why to me, like people like Ben, why do you do so much on your own? I was like, you know, until I build that fucking foundation enough on my own and learn, and you know, it's not that I'm afraid to work with people, or whatever else. It's just like. First off, I don't think I should be asking anything from anyone until I can prove that I'm good enough for it. Not good enough as being bad. I'm just saying I'm really trying to work.
Good enough film. You're a really good filmmaker, and you've made some good films, and they've had some sort of success.
Yeah.
It's also really like hard because in the last year, especially, the entire motion picture business just changed.
Exactly.
And you have to be, you know, I consult with a lot of filmmakers, and I come to them and say, look, it's not enough just to be a good filmmaker anymore. You have to be a good marketer.
Exactly.
You have to be a good business person.
Exactly.
Or you have to have the money to hire those people.
Exactly.
Because it's not like way back in the day when I was making the Bleep, and you know, Facebook and Bleep launched on the very same day.
Oh no shit.
Believe it or not. Huh. Bleep opened in theaters, Facebook launched on the internet. So, you know, it's to get some sense of business sense about what you're doing. And it's a lot of luck, and it's a lot of hustle. And don't get in this business if you're not willing to have a little bit of grizzle and grit on you and get into the fray and jump into the ring, then you probably shouldn't be in this business. You know, because it's tough out there. Just like it is in any other business.
How do you deal with people that like, I mean, obviously because you've actually, you know, you've had a very well-known film being made. I know we probably had this conversation once, but how do you deal with the people that like only want to talk to you because like you had a big film, or that you like, you can tell they're like trying to just weasel their way into their opportunities and not really trying to like do the.
Yeah, that time. Like, it's funny because I've had guys that just want to date me, and the first thing they say when they walk in, this is Betsy. She made What the Bleep. You just kind of go, yeah, I made What the Bleep. I don't even think yes. Sometimes I bring it up because it's a door opener. Sure, just so we're clear, I use it.
Oh, yeah.
I use it to my advantage. But again, we have to use what we've got. It's true. I made the Bleep. It helps me open doors. That's all true. You know, but I don't know, Ben. I think I just don't worry about it as much.
Yeah.
I mean, I look to find people, and I have a small circle of people in my life anymore. You and Mesa are one of them, or two of them.
Yeah.
Because for me, I just don't have the time or energy. However, you know, I'm in production on something right now, and I won't tell you what it is, but I have to get into the fray.
Yeah.
I have to jump in the ring. I have to do the work. because I need to raise some significant amount of money for it, right?
Yeah.
So the trick is knowing when I got to go in there, knowing how to go in there with integrity, do what I need to do, and create the project, not let the rest of it bug me. I don't even, it's like, whatever.
Let me wrap this up.
Just don't even think
Let me
about
wrap
it.
this up because I know we're over, and I really want to talk to you for like 3 hours. Literally, I like you're always bringing up really. But one of the things is, what do you think is the difference even between when you made What the Bleep and now, and how films are being marketed? Just as a conversation of being like, do you feel like it's harder now to get a film out there? I mean, it's easier to get the tools and stuff. I feel like it's easier to make films, but it's harder to like get the attention.
Yeah, because there's just more films.
Yeah.
Everybody became a filmmaker now.
Yeah.
Everybody's a filmmaker. And most people are bad filmmakers, and some people are bad filmmakers and good marketers.
True.
So it's all about, somebody said, I was doing this Q&A panel right before COVID hit, and someone said, what's the difference between a successful film and a not successful film? And I said, marketing budget. Because at the end of the day,
so true.
I have seen terrible movies with amazing trailers and huge marketing budgets. The interesting thing is they make most of the money in the beginning, and because they're bad, they die out, right?
Yeah.
So eventually it sifts itself through, right? But if you're a great filmmaker and you don't have the marketing skills and you don't have the marketing, I always tell people, if you're raising money for a movie, if you're raising $500,000 for a movie, raise $300,000 for your marketing budget.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's the difference. That right there, that is the difference. People always ask, how come the Bleep became so successful? One of the reasons is because we had $5 million in marketing money. And at today's rate, that would probably be about $15 million. So it's not that the Bleep, and it was a good movie, so it had staying power, right? We were able to have staying power with it. Because even if we had the marketing money, at the end, this does happen. You can market the shit out of something and it be bad, and it will die. You might make your money back because you were smart enough to get it out quick enough, but the good bad quality eventually finds its way in that little, whatever that little pinko thing is, right? But at the end of the day, what made Bleep so successful, first was the money, and second was it was a good film.
Yeah. And so how do you keep control of the creativity and be an independent artist, knowing like you need that much? I think that's always been the thing I always think about is like, how do I keep creative control enough to where I'm not being manipulated or people think George Soros is paying me, but being able to raise enough money to get a film out. Again, some people aren't trying to become Hollywood, whatever, but they are trying to make their films and get out there. So how do you be independent in this world? What's that?
You have to find the right people. You have to find the right investors to work with. I mean, I wrote a book about this, Ben. It's called the Documentary Filmmaking Masterclass,
which I'm gonna put in the link. I'm gonna put a link in the description below.
I talk about the cost of the money that you raise, right? Because, for you have credits. It's not like you're just some newbie filmmaker, right? So you have credits and you have legitimacy as a filmmaker. So the trick is finding the people that are interested enough in what you have to say that will give you the money. And that, for me, I talk a lot about in the book about expectations. And this is we're going right back to the beginning of this interview when I first started talking to Will, because he was putting in a couple $1 million into this movie, which is, a lot of money into it. So the first thing I asked him is, what are your expectations for spending this money? And once I heard his expectations, my job was to say, the script that you have and the project that you have does not match that expectation. So in my opinion, it's always having those tough conversations. And I say no to a lot more money than I say yes to. Yeah. Because if we're not in alignment with our expectations, and it's funny, in the woo-woo world, they want to tell you that expectations are bad. That's a lie. As expectations, right? The trick is, if I'm not clear about what my expectations are to you and you're not to me, and problems happen. We're very clear. We write out, here are our expectations in relationship and everything. It's the same. This is what I expect. I can't deliver that. Okay, I'm out. It's such an easy conversation we don't have. And so I'm very clear about having that. And it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes patience. It it takes the willingness to just not, if you really believe in it and you want to make the project, don't give up. You'll find that person. I call it turning over rocks. Keep turning over rocks. But are you a fit? Are you a fit? Are you a fit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like relationships. You got to kiss a lot of. It's the same with investing and finding investors.
Yeah, and it's true. And you know, it's funny when you study a lot of people, like in just business in general, and they always, you know, they tell you about this, like the mindset. You know, I always fucking roll my eyes when I hear mindset nowadays and the psychology of it. But it really is, because I heard you talking about this in another podcast about dealing with that rejection and that fucking constant barrage of just like, am I good enough to do this? Can I fuck it? You know what I mean? Like, that's a beast. You got to fucking put that bitch down and be like, dude, all right, I've got to, you know, and it's hard. Like, anyone thinks it's fucking easy, like, do it. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and criticize motherfuckers, but it's harder when you get in that motherfucking ring and you're like, God damn it, am I fucking, like, maybe I'm not quite, you know, that imposter syndrome shit, man. And, you know, that's why I ask you, you know, I respect, you know, I know we have different points of view in spiritualism, but you know a lot of stuff when it comes to this fucking business, and you've been on the top of doing stuff, you know, you've been on both sides of it. That's why I'm asking you, because I actually think you're knowledgeable. And I think that goes back to even your book, to me, in a sense of Killing That Buddha, and that expectation of like, what did I transform and learn myself to? So then what is your expectations that you have for Killing Buddha then?
Well, I would love to make it into a TV series. Tendency to do with my creative projects is I put it out into the world and see what happens with it. My expectations have been met for the book, in terms of I put the book out. The book is out there. It's selling well. I'd love for people to go buy it. But I also, one of the things I try to do is I dream really big, but I'm also really realistic about my expectations. Yeah. And I would love for the Killing Buddha to be a New York Times bestseller. Is that my expectation? So there's a big difference. I did a dating series called Radical Dating. And in one of the episodes, they talk about this. They did requirements, needs, and wants. Like, to really define, like, what are your requirements? What are must-haves in a relationship? What is it that you would need in a relationship, which is different than a requirement, and what are wants? So I understand that in terms of all expectations. Like, my expectation is that the book gets out in the world. I do that best that I can with it. That was my expectation. My want is that it's a New York Times.
What about the reader itself? What about a no bullshit approach to what the expectation that you would like to get the reader, when they fucking come across this book, that fucking no bullshit, no nonsense, be real with me, that you want people to get from that book?
There is no right path. We're all here on the plane of experience out. There is no right path. You don't have to have a yoni shoved up your vagina, a yoni rock shoved up your vagina to be enlightened or whatever. Just operate in integrity, know your values and ethics, do the best you can.
That's good, because I don't have a vagina anyway, so I guess it doesn't work out for me anyway.
Yeah,
so
that wouldn't be working very much.
So,
Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you. Betsy's new book is Killing Buddha. Please, guys, make sure you check that out. I will have the link in the hold on, I'm going to put the book up again one more time. Killing Buddha, the truth shall set you free, but first it will make you miserable. But people, don't be afraid to be miserable. It's not the end of the world. But Miss Betsy Chasse, where else can people find you if they want to look, see more of your work and more about you?
BetsyChasse.net and at Betsy Chasse, pretty much any social platform.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a really great conversation.
I'm
so glad to have you. Hang out for just a minute, and I'm gonna talk to you on the other side of this, okay?
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. If you are just joining us for the first time today, first off, make sure you check out Betsy's work. She's a phenomenal author, phenomenal filmmaker, and I will have the links to everything she said here in below. And if it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe. You can check me out at benfamajr.com or on my Instagram when I feel like posting on that too. But I'm out of here. Peace.